Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, this is Matthew Shutte, and I'm here with Will Harris-Braun. Is that how you pronounce your name, Will?
Hi. Yeah, Will Harris-Braun. It's
Brown.
spelled Braun, but it's pronounced Brown.
Got it. And this is our, I think, Facebook Live Q&A number 7, maybe? The first time Will's been on. Will is our customer service guru. So those of you who have been pinging us with questions about the Holo ports that are part of our Indiegogo campaign, or questions about the initial community offering that we're launching this month, you've probably been getting answers back from Will. So
Yep.
now you've got a face to an email or a Mattermost message. Feel free to go ahead and ask questions in the comments of this Facebook Live Q&A. We'll give a couple of minutes for people to jump on so that we've got a fair number of folks online before we dive into the meaty stuff. But while we try to fill the airwaves just a little bit, Will, can you paint a bit of a picture of what your life has been like for the last few months? Like, where have you been and what have you been up to with Holo?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm actually on a gap year between high school and college right now. I'm going to college next, I guess technically this year in August or September. But yeah, for the past couple of months, I've been working for Holo and traveling all around pretty much. I've been working some from my home in East Chatham, New York State in the US, but also from Portugal, from Porto, Portugal with a bunch of the team. And now we're here in Quito, Ecuador. That's where I am now, working with another group of the team. And yeah, it's been a really exciting time. A lot of new places and like exploring new cities, and at the same time like working really hard on this project, which is really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been juggling a lot of balls on the team. What are some of the ways in which you've been showing up over the last couple months?
I have, yeah. So I do a bunch of things for the team. Right now, I'm like working pretty intensely on like Matthew said earlier, customer service and answering people's questions, and on whether that be on Mattermost or through email or any of those channels. But I've also done a bunch of graphic design and writing and I don't know, lots of other stuff for the team.
Yeah, it's very much a startup, so it's kind of like there's work that needs doing, and people jump in and do. Even though we've got, even though we've got somewhere around 30 people on the team, and there's lots of it's a new thing, right? So we've got people jumping in all over the place. One of the things that both of us had mentioned, Mattermost, that is our chat community. For those of you who are not familiar, you can get there by going to chat.holochain.net and sign up. There's amazing humans there, not all of whom are on our team. We've got probably 20 times as many people that are just supporters and advocates and interested parties. And they're often we're seeing questions being answered wonderfully well by people who are not on the team. So that's been fun.
Yeah, it's so cool to see that chat server has really become like a really like integral part of the community of people who are following Holo and are involved in Holo, whether or not they're on the team. And it's really cool to see these people who are interested in the project and are talking to other people about it and sharing their ideas, and it's a really great place. And there are also like tons of channels you can go and look at. So once you log in, you can go and look at all the channels and subscribe to the ones you might be interested in and talk to the people who are also interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. We've got 8 or so people on the call, it looks like, at present, and I'll throw some questions to you as we're waiting for more comments to come through.
Yeah, sure.
What are the biggest questions that people have had about our ICO? And we'll make one quick thing that's visible that might not be visible to everybody yet. We were originally planning to launch our ICO on January 12th. We opened whitelisting, meaning the process for people to get verified to participate, on January 9th. We were originally planning to start the actual sale tomorrow. And for a couple of reasons, we've opted to move that back 11 days. So we're going to instead be launching on January 23rd. A couple of reasons. Some of those are regulatory issues. We're wanting to make sure that we are in full compliance before we launch a sale. And we had a couple of hurdles that we just need a little extra time before the regulators can get us the okays that we need. But there was a side benefit, which is we really want the members of our Indiegogo campaign who are stepping up as developers and hosts to be able to participate as well. And having additional time for those people to get set up and registered and all of that gives them the priority that we're wanting them to have for participation should they decide to do so. And so giving ourselves a little bit of extra runway helps in a few different ways. What are the questions that you've been getting thrown your way with all of the, with the opening of the whitelisting and the sale being pushed back? Like I'm sure you've gotten 1,000 questions.
Yeah. So one of the big ones is about how the ICO is restricted in a couple countries. So participants from the United States and from China and from South Korea can't participate in the ICO, which is unfortunate, and it's due to legal reasons. We're trying to keep everyone safe and everyone from being in trouble with any regulatory bodies of any country that is more uncomfortable with the process of ICOs than maybe a lot of them. But the big question I'm getting is from people who are Indiegogo backers and they're from one of these countries. So for example, they're from the US and they say, I know I've heard that I can't participate in the ICO. Does this mean can I still be a part of the Holo community? Am I still going to be able to use my Holo port, my Holo hosting device? And the answer is yes. You will absolutely be able to, if you backed on Indiegogo and you ordered a Holo port, you will absolutely be able to use it no matter where you live. As long as you have an internet connection, you can plug it in, you'll earn Holo fuel, and you'll be part of the network, hosting other people's data and apps and distributed apps. The only thing that you're restricted from if you're in one of those countries is from the ICO, which is an optional pre-sale of the hosting credits that we'll be using once we launch the network. So if you're in one of these countries, don't worry. While it's unfortunate that you can't be part of the ICO, you'll absolutely be able to participate in these other ways.
And once we launch the network, the regulatory hurdles that are present for a pre-sale go away, because then you're just making use of a currency in an existing system. The risk of this token or credit being considered a security goes away. And that has to do with the nuances of securities regulations. So for those of you in the US, yes, you'll be, as Will said, yes, you can run the thing, yes, you can earn it, and yes, you can spend it, right? So you'll be able to make use of the currency that you're earning. It's not just, great, I'm earning currency, but I can't do anything with it. No, it will be a fully functioning system. We just aren't able to let people participate in the funding round in advance of the launch of the network. That's the big one. What are the other things? Obviously, we had a push back on the ICO. Are there any other questions around that I didn't cover that feel top of mind to you?
Yeah, so an important one is about whitelisting. Whitelisting started about last Monday, and it's been going on since then. We have, I think it might be over 200 people whitelisted already, which is great.
And what is whitelisting? Can you make that clear for folks?
Yeah, sorry about that. So the whitelisting process is a KYC process, like know your customer process. Is another legal thing that we have to go through to make sure we're being responsible about the way we're running our ICO. We need for like certain banks regulations and stuff like that. We need to make sure that we know who we're taking money from, who's participating. So the whitelisting process involves putting in your name, your legal name, and actually going and taking a picture of one of your like legal documents. For example, your passport is the best one to use, and your face. And we have a service called Verif that we're using that a human actually looks at your information to make sure that you're a real person. And needs to be done before you can participate in the ICO. And so once your identity has been verified through that process, then you can add your Ethereum address into our whitelisting app, and then we add that to our on-chain whitelist. And that means that's on the blockchain. It's immutable, and that's how we decide who is allowed to send us to send our ICO Ether once the ICO opens. Do you think I missed anything, Matthew?
No, that sounds good. So I mean, so we got into what whitelisting is. How long do people have to whitelist? Is it a first come first serve thing? Can you make all those things visible?
Yeah, right. That's one of the questions I was originally going to answer. So people have been concerned that they won't be able to whitelist once the ICO starts. So they're concerned that there's this like one time limit, and they have like 3 days or 10 days or whatever to get whitelisted. And that's not actually how we're doing it. So whitelisting will be running all through the ICO. So even after it starts, you'll be able to whitelist, and then once you go through that process, which should take it's pretty fast, but they only run at least the identity verification part of it during business hours in Europe. So sometimes it could take, if you do it like let's say on a Friday night in Europe, it could take until Monday morning, but it shouldn't take too long as long as you're in those times. And so even once the ICO starts, as long as you go through the whitelisting process, and make it through and add your address, then you'll be good to go to participate.
Yeah, so a couple of things there, right? I'm just going to highlight I'm going to pull out the highlights. So one, you've got to get whitelisted, which means you have to go through this process with Verif, including adding your address and photo and ID, et cetera. Two, you've got to add your Ethereum address. Any caveats around the Ethereum address? Are there particular Ethereum? Are there things that you want to avoid around exchanges, et cetera? Or
yeah, so this is pretty important. How the ICO works is you'll be sending us Ether from your Ethereum address that you've set up with us, and we send back to that same Ethereum address ERC20 tokens, which are the Holo tokens that we're selling for the ICO. And later you'll be able to exchange these tokens for Holo Fuel, which is our ecosystem's mutual credit crypto accounting system. But for now, we have the Holo tokens. They're ERC20 tokens. And the important thing is that ERC20 tokens aren't supported on certain wallets. So for example, Coinbase is a popular way for people to purchase Ether. And you can actually get your Ethereum address from Coinbase, but Coinbase doesn't support ERC20 tokens. So if you input your Coinbase address, our contract will send you the ERC20 tokens to that address, and then they'll be stuck in your Coinbase. So it's important that you make sure to follow there's some instructions and guides that have this all detailed out and tell you which Ethereum wallets we recommend and which ones work. So you can follow those, and to make sure that we recommend using either MetaMask or My Ether wallet. Those are two wallets that support ERC20 tokens, and you'll be able to, once we send you the tokens, you'll be able to go into them and enter in the token information and see that you have them in your wallet, instead of having them be stuck there, like would happen in a wallet that's unsupported.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with the whitelisting thing for just a little bit longer to try to flesh out all the details, because if we can get these things clear for people, I think that helps a lot.
Definitely.
So as you had mentioned, people can whitelist throughout the whole duration of the ICO. Prior to, from here onwards, people can add themselves to the whitelist, which basically means they're going to be qualified to purchase. They're going to be allowed to purchase. We've had folks have some, the qualification process or the verification process is does not allow for mistakes. I guess would be the way to put it. Can you comment on that a little bit? What are some of the things that you've seen people go, shoot, I'm having to go through the process again because fill in the blank?
Yeah. So like you said, it's pretty much, you have to get everything exactly right. So one of the biggest things is people don't put in either their document number or their name exactly as it shows it on the document. So those fields need to match exactly what's on the document. For example, my name is William Jens Harris-Braun. And on my passport, it says William Jens for first names, for given names, and for last name, it says Harris-Braun. So when I go to whitelist, I would put into the first names field or the given names field, I would put William Jens. That's what it says on my passport, right? And then into the last name field, I would put Harris-Braun. So it needs to match exactly. That's, you know, capitalization, spelling, order. Some people have put in their names backwards or accidentally put in their last name where the first name goes and the first name where the last name goes. And same with the document number. So it needs to be put in exactly as it's shown with just, you know, type it in exactly as it's shown on the document. That's one of the biggest, that's one of the biggest issues people have. Another one, this is an interesting one, is actually, so our verification service that we're using uses your webcam to take a picture of your face and take a picture of your document. And some people have run into a problem with their webcam. For example, it's not high quality enough to take a good enough picture that they can see all the details of your document and be able to read it and verify it. And we've had people with this problem, and we've solved it with them by having them download a smartphone app that allows them to connect to their browser and use their smartphone as a webcam. And apparently this works flawlessly. So that's the thing you can do. You can research that type of app and do that if your webcam is low quality or if you don't have a webcam.
Awesome. On the same topic, there are certain countries where a driver's license or another kind of locally issued ID might not suffice. A passport would be needed. Can you go into a little bit of detail about what kinds of things we've seen there, what's within our power, what's not within our power, et cetera?
That's right. Yeah. So for the verification service, they need, I believe, what's called an MRZ document, which is like a machine readable document. It's a little misleading because it is actually humans looking at your document, but that's the class of document they need for it to be accurate and secure enough for them to be confident with their verification of it. So I think we've gotten reports that Greek identification cards, country identification cards don't work. They don't pass that, they're not up to that muster. And possibly, I think driver's licenses from a lot of places, maybe Canada. If you have a passport or a travel document, as they call it, that will work every time as long as you take a high quality enough picture of it. So that's your best bet. If you have a passport, that will work. Yeah.
And when they take a picture, is it just of the photo on the document? Is it the entire document? If it's the passport, is it the whole thing? Is it a front and a back? If it's an ID card, can you give like some tips there? Because I know there's been some confusion there as well.
Yeah, I believe, obviously I haven't gone through this process like multiple times with every different type of, card to see how it works. But from what I've heard, I believe if you have an ID card, you need to take a picture of the front and the back. If you have a passport, I believe you take a picture of the front, just the page with your face on it and the main page. And it has to be the whole page that's in there, but not the spread. So not the upper page when you fold that down. And of course the service that we're using has detailed instructions for all of these. So if you go to that and you read everything on the page and you pay attention to that, you should be fine. They detail that pretty well. It's pretty clear.
Great. Cool. I'm trying to think if there's any other things about that stuff before we start diving into all these questions. We're starting to get a little stockpile of questions, so we can probably dive in. But if you think of anything else, mention it. I just wanted to make sure that the things that I had seen showing up repeatedly as questions, we kind of gave a human spoken, walkthrough.
Yeah.
Paul asked, "Can you update on the security audit?" And he asked, "Wasn't that scheduled before the ICO?" We have not done our security audit yet. No, it is not. It was not scheduled before the ICO. The security audit is of Holochain. We're going to be doing not just one, but several rounds of security audits. That will be stuff that's ongoing. We will also be doing security audits for Holo as well. Those are going to get paid for using the funds that we raise in the ICO. So it wouldn't have been possible for us to do that before the ICO because we don't have the funds to actually pay for the hundreds of thousands of dollars of outside security professionals to come and road test our stuff. We do have a working alpha version of Holochain. It is not yet audited for security. We know that it's probably got holes and gaps. Don't build mission critical apps on it yet. You can think of it as a proof of concept and something to play with to start getting familiar with these new patterns of application development and just running applications. But as we move into the spring and summer, all of our infrastructure for Holochain as well as for Holo will start really getting much more mature and out in the world.
I believe if you visit holo.host/ICO and scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, there's a little graphic that kind of outlines the roadmap, the future timeline of our plans for both the Holo ecosystem and for the Holochain core software and also Holochain apps that will be built.
And just to clarify here, I'm speaking about the security audits for Holochain and Holo. Nicholas Luck, one of our core developers, wanted to point out that our ICO audit, the audit on the code for running our initial community offering, was actually finished before Christmas. So that security audit has been completed. We're solid per that audit. Torges asks, how would a potential pump on the price of Holo fuel affect the price of the usage of the network? And how would the Holo fuel gain real economic value? Would it also work as a currency? I would recommend diving in and reading the green paper as well as our currency paper. We go into a ton of detail there on how the network operates, how the currency operates, etc. Before diving into the pump question, I'll actually start with how does Holo fuel gain real economic value? The first thing is when people are purchasing Holo fuel, what they're actually purchasing is computing capacity. We are promising to deliver computing capacity at a particular rate. Our organization will be willing to be the host. However, we're offering that at a price, though 10,000 times cheaper than Ethereum, a price that we think all of the members of our hosting ecosystem are going to be able to beat, because we're leaving a pretty big margin between what it actually costs to run an application and do work on Holo and what we're charging for that same work, which means other folks are going to be able to go, hey, I'm willing to do that work for 10% less and get a bunch of business, and a whole ecosystem emerges. That said, those are sales or uses of the currency, which is a little bit different from a redemption of the currency. If somebody spends Holo fuel on hosting with someone else, great. Now that party has the Holo fuel. But if they spend it with us, it leaves the ecosystem altogether, right? It gets canceled out. That credit is redeemed, and we will actually provide the services. So that's the real economic value. Unlike most cryptocurrencies, Holo is actually asset-backed. It's backed by the computing capacity that's being promised by the organization that issued it. That's us who are setting it up. We're trying to foster a much larger ecosystem of value creation, but that's the backing of the currency. And when you ask, would it also work as a currency? Our expectation is, though it is designed to be used as a currency for facilitating hosting of these peer-to-peer applications, speaking to regular folks that use web browsers, people are not going to just use it for that. Like, we're certain that over time, people are going to start using it for other things, even though early on, we're probably going to limit the ways in which it can be used. For instance, by making the size of a transaction a maximum amount of something like 1 Holo. Or €1, something akin to that. I don't know exactly what that'll be, but we may limit the transaction size early on as we're road testing things and really working out everything, because we don't want people transferring millions of dollars before everything is like nice and functional. If there's a breakdown and somebody loses 50 cents, that feels okay. If there's a breakdown and somebody loses 50 million, that feels not so okay. So as we're getting things tested and stuff, we may try to constrain our risks in a few different ways. The last one, how would a potential pump on the price of Holo fuel affect the price of the usage of the network? I can comment on that. Will, do you have any thoughts on what it would take to pump Holo fuel or the Holo tokens? That I could see it. You're muted at present. But.
What do you exactly mean by pump?
They mean artificially drive up the price. They mean somebody who's holding a bunch of tokens starts like buying up the tokens at higher prices and drive up their perceived price, and then other people go, "Oh my gosh!" and it creates this like fear of missing out, and it leads the price to come up, and then they sell at that higher price. Right? So it's a common scheme in not just cryptocurrencies but other markets, but it's particularly bad in the cryptocurrency space. People known for pump and dump type architectures.
So I think the difference and kind of what protects us from this a little bit, if kind of what I understand is right, is that our not only Holo Fuel but also our Holo tokens are asset backed, so they're directly backed by distributed hosting and distributed computing. I think maybe you can speak a little more to that and why that protects from that type of activity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Will we be able to protect against speculation? Are we going to be able to prevent speculation at all? No, we are not. Other people are going to come in and they're going to try to speculate, especially in this initial period where we'll have issued a limited supply of tokens. There's going to be a gap between that ICO sale and the launch of our actual network. So people may end up getting really excited about what we're up to as more people start building applications, because people are already building applications on top of Holochain, and that will likely accelerate between now and the launch of Holo. We're going to do our best to make sure it does accelerate, obviously. That said, once the network launches, what's happening is those tokens are being traded in for a specific amount of computing, or maybe some additional computing if other people are willing to provide it for cheaper. But we're saying, hey, we'll give you this much computing power. The perception of the value of that computing power is what's going to drive the perceived value of the currency, at one level. And at another level, we've put a number of things in our design of our currency, like the ability for the Holo organization or other organizations or individuals with reserve accounts to be able to issue additional currency. So we've created mechanisms to enable the currency supply to breathe, and fluctuate a bit in response to supply and demand. That stabilizes prices a bit and probably can act as a bit of a counter to pump schemes. So for us, we're not interested in supporting traditional, how can we make this a volatile gambling token thing? From our perspective, that really undermines our currency's use as a medium of exchange for hosting. And what we're really trying to do is to foster a bunch of hosting activity, not facilitate a bunch of gambling. Thoughts or comments on that before we move on, Will? No. All right. Leon asks a question that many people have asked, and none have gotten an answer. What is the expected return on investment of, say, a Holoport Plus? It is probably not legal for us to state what the expected return of investment is. We don't know, right? There's no way for us to know in advance of the launch of the network what the demand is going to be based on the number of applications, based on the user base, what those applications are being used for, how much people are paying for hosting. All of those things are going to lead to the value of Holo Fuel and the amount of transaction volume to shift. And as it shifts, that is going to make the payment time or effort required higher or lower. We don't know in advance what that's going to be. Thoughts or comments there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't know, and we can't really say what the actual return on investment is going to be. But there is an interesting fact about the cost of running a Holoport, which is if you're concerned about not even making enough to cancel out the electricity cost of running your Holoport, you can rest assured the Holoport Plus, which is the most energy demanding of our three Holoports, uses as much electricity as a light bulb. So
wow.
If you're concerned, be a tiny bit more vigilant about turning your lights off when you're not using them and you've already canceled out the electricity that is running your Holoport.
Wow. Um, there was something that popped into my head when you mentioned that, and I just lost it. Um, I don't remember. I think it had to do with the the fact that I remember. So one way of looking at what we're trying to do with the Holo ports and distributed hosting in general is um, this. We are trying to disrupt Amazon's cash cow. So Amazon is the fourth largest company. 10% of their revenue comes from Amazon Web Services, which is their cloud hosting division. But that cloud hosting money, that revenue makes up more profit for their company than the entire other 90% of their business combined. That is the part of Amazon that makes money. What we're hoping to do with Holo at one level is enable anybody to start getting in on that business of cloud hosting. There's a slight difference there. We're really trying to bridge between peer-to-peer applications and the regular world. But you can think of it as us trying to do to Amazon's cash cow what Airbnb did to the hotel industry. So, and the other thing is nobody else is going to be able to run, or other people are not going to be able to run for less than the price of the electricity either. So the market's probably not going to push far below that. Not that people couldn't have shared or subsidized electricity, but it's not a winner-take-all game like many of the blockchain-based cryptocurrencies are. If you are providing hosting services for other parties, you get paid. And there's a variety of metrics that people will be able to compete on, not just price, things like uptime, responsiveness, et cetera. So there will be other metrics that enable you to, or even nearness, right? You being close, that might be a kind of way in which jobs are being allocated by application developers. We're going to have to build all of those components. So I'm not promising that on launch we'll have all of that capacity available for sort of smart allocation, but that's what we're aiming for. Why are you guys not spending money on marketing like ads? Asked Shared Mocha. I don't know. What do you think, Will? Why are we not spending money on marketing?
Well, first of all, we actually are spending a little bit of money on ads. It's not very much, and it's a little ironic because most of those are on Facebook and Twitter, right? Which is very sort of contrary to a lot of our philosophies. But it's something that we've known for a while that we're going to have to play in the world that we're trying to replace in order to replace it. But I think the main reason why we're not putting so much energy into that is, well, at least what comes to me is that like I've seen this just amazing community of people that are like so interested in the technology and the platforms and the ecosystem that we're building, and that are not only interested in learning about it but also participating in it and building apps and getting involved and even sometimes joining the team. And that's so much of that has happened by kind of not ads but like members of our team going to different cities and making and running hackathons and just people reaching out to people who they think would be interested in all this, these other ways of reaching out to people that, at least in my view, have been very successful. So that's maybe one of the reasons. I don't know if Matthew, you have some other insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll sort of add to that. That is marketing, right? What we're focused on is community development. We want a rich community of users, of developers, and we're not, because I'm in the crypto space, of course, Facebook sends me crypto ads. Every website I go on is like blockchain conference or whatever. And most of those ads are really designed to get somebody to be afraid of missing out and to go, oh gosh, I better jump into this thing and maybe I'll get rich quick. And to be totally honest, we're doing our best to actually push those kinds of people away. The folks who are looking to get rich quick, we're trying to make ourselves not appetizing to them. We're doing a bunch of things in the design of our ICO to limit the participation of speculators. and really orient towards people who are interested in using this stuff and growing this new way of running applications and really coordinating activity. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, the big why here is around giving humans a new way to coordinate activity, even at scale, a new way that's more agile, adaptable, and that empowers the individuals, that leaves the individuals empowered, despite the fact that they are choosing to work together at any particular moment in time. Yeah, so that's the main thing. I think we are putting a fair bit of effort into marketing, but not in the traditional way. And at the same time, I'm the director of communications, quote unquote, which basically means I speak a bunch. I'll be the first to admit that our communications could use improving, right? Our stuff is deeply technical. We're working on that. We're trying to come up with some better, simpler walkthroughs. But even some people who are really, really smart have looked at our materials and gone, man, if I need a PhD in mathematics to read this white paper. And that's not awesome, right? That our accuracy is wonderful and our diligence is wonderful, but we are going to be trying to level up our game quite a bit in terms of our communication. Okay. Luke asked, what ID cards are accepted in Canada? Do you happen to know that off the top of your head, Will?
Yeah, I believe that like driver's licenses won't work so well in Canada. I think if what I remember from some of the Q&A channel about ICO on our public Mattermost is correct, I don't think those will work. Your safest bet is to go for your passport if you have a passport. Otherwise, if you're having problems, I think you can shoot an email to Verif and they might be able to help you. There's information about that on our Mattermost. So if you go to our Mattermost, again, chat.holochain.net, and then if you join the ICO Q&A channel, I believe it's called !emoji Holo/ICO Q&A. You should join that and we'll help you out in there. Either you can go look through it for information about that, or you could ask if other people have had success in Canada with different documents, or possibly even get in touch with Verif and see if they can help you out. So that would be your best bet there.
Yeah. And one of the things, I'll just make another comment here, because this has been a journey for us. We just had a blog post come out. Arthur Brock, one of our founders, just put out a blog post about running an ethical ICO and what it takes to do that, and what our take is on doing that. And it's interesting, core to our values is this desire to distribute power, right? And to distribute participation. And so we're trying to, that's one of our values, we're trying to run an ICO that operates in those ways. And at the same time, many regulatory systems, whether they're government or banking or other pieces, aren't really set up for that. They're not set up to make it easy for anybody to participate in something. And so we've had to jump through these hoops. And the example of, no, a Canadian driver's license might not do, in my mind, it's like, yeah, if you're not somebody who's part of the traveling global elite, somebody who has a passport and travels internationally, then it's not going to be easy for you to jump through these, know your customer hoops that we have to use if we want to make use of the banking system in general. And since we don't plan on having money under mattresses, we want to be able to transfer funds to people who redeem out Holo down the line. We've got to use the banking system and interact with it. So it's been a stretching in many directions. We're because we're trying to bridge between the distributed world of the future and the centralized world of the present. There are side effects of that it's like, well, that's not how I would prefer that this would work, and yet that's the best that we can do for now. So for those of you who are wanting to participate and are just not able to figure out how, for one reason or another, my condolences, and we hope that you're able to participate as a host, whether it's with a Holoport or your own machine. Again, you can serve as a host, earn cryptocurrency, earn Holo fuel just using your laptop, your desktop, etc. Marcelo had answered a question there I'm going to just read through his answer. Hi, Luke. I've tried once with my Brazilian driver's license and it didn't work. However, I was told to send an email to support@veriff, VERIFF.me, and was instructed to try again, and it worked. So I think you could shoot them an email. So again, folks, if you have a question, support@veriff, VERIFF.me. That'll get you some help. Also, in our Mattermost, again, at chat.holochain.net, there is a user named Julia Veriff. Is that right, Will? And she's actually a customer support representative from Veriff. She can help people work through the process if they're having issues as well. Paul asked, who looks at our ID? It is employees of Veriff, the organization that is performing our KYC, our customer, know your customer check. Is that right, Will?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Let's see. Apparently, I'm annoying people with loud typing, or somebody is. I'm not sure.
I haven't been typing at all, so I don't know.
It must be me. Maybe it's my mouse. I don't know. What else? I'm off grid and don't get utility bills. How would you otherwise prove your address? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know quite what you mean here. Your physical like postal address?
Wait, I think
Yeah.
I think they might be confusing Ethereum address and postal address. Is that?
I think that might be what's going on here. So I don't think anywhere we require your postal address. What you do need for our whitelisting process is your Ethereum address, which is you need to create an Ethereum wallet, and then you can find your address and put it there. That's what you'll be sending Ether, which is a cryptocurrency that it's one that already exists. It's not ours, but it's one that we're using to operate our ICO. And so you'll have a wallet and that will have an Ethereum address, and you'll need to put that into our whitelisting process. And then that's how we'll know that it's you sending Ether, and we'll know where to send the tokens to.
And Will, what's the resource that you would direct people toward if they have questions about all of this stuff? Where? Freshdesk?
Yeah, so there's a support article that I've written. It's on our help center, which is if you go to holo.freshdesk.com, that's HOLO for Holo and FRESHDESK, which is like freshdesk.com. You should be directed to a help center, and you'll be able to find different support articles on different things. I believe there's one on how to set up an Ethereum wallet. We don't provide direct support for that because there's lots of resources all over the internet for how to do that, and there's videos that you can follow and stuff like that. But we do give a couple of links to guides and different recommended wallets. And there's also articles on there guiding you through how to go through the whole whitelist process.
Awesome. All right, we've got another question from Shared Mocha. Say, for example, if you sell max 10 million ERC20 tokens, then will the hard cap be reset? I don't exactly know where that, what that was in context from.
Yeah.
I will talk a little bit about our cap. So the minimum that we're looking to raise is 1 million. Our target is 2.5. That's what we're releasing on day one of the ICO on January 23rd. A few days later, we will release additional tokens based on the demand demonstrated through purchases of hosting boxes and developer trainings in our Indiegogo. So based on the demand demonstrated there, we're going to release additional tokens. At no point are we intending to sell, during this ICO, are we intending to sell more than 25 million euros worth of currency. So we don't think it would be responsible for us to take $250 million or something like that. So we've set a hard cap for ourselves for this ICO of 25 million euros. Now that does not mean that 25 million euros is going to be size of the ecosystem eventually. It doesn't mean that the number of tokens that we sell during this ICO is the entirety of all that will ever exist. That is not how our system is structured. Go read the white papers on currency. Go read the green paper. It will guide you through how we're actually trying to run this thing. But we are not going to raise more than 25 million euros. That's not our target. The pricing is probably another thing to point out. We are aiming to price our currency, Holo, our Holo tokens, relative to Ethereum as of the launch of our ICO. So we're going to see what the Ethereum rate is at that point relative to euros. Based on that, we're going to set our price of what amount of computing capacity basically we're going to be willing to offer. The only other thing to say about that, I believe, is the minimum. I don't know that we have written this much, but the minimum purchase is probably 0.1 Ether, which is about 100 euros at current prices. So why do we want to have a minimum? It costs us some money to do the verification process and actually run all of the transfers on the Ethereum blockchain. We need to have a large enough transaction to make it worthwhile to do that. And 100 euros felt like that was big enough, while not being so big that it excludes people from participating. Someone said that, oh no, you should have an $8,000 minimum, and I'm like, that'd be horrible to only allow people who had $8,000 lying around to be able to participate. The other question that they asked that was kind of related was, if the first 2.5 million are not sold, what happens next? They stay available until we're done with the thing. If we don't sell 1 million euros worth of cryptocurrency, we are going to refund everybody their money and figure out some other way of funding this thing. At this point, it doesn't look like that's likely to be an outcome. But if that was the case, if we failed to raise 1 million euros, we'd go, okay, cool, we'll figure out a different way of doing this. But if we raise anything over that, then away we go. We believe that with 1 million euros, we'll have sufficient resources to actually get Holo launched. Additional funds will allow for additional development, give us more of a runway, and make it so that we have reserves on hand to be able to pay people who are looking to redeem Holo fuel. The details of how all of those things are impacted by the amount of money that we raise are detailed in the green paper near the end, I believe. Leon asked, okay, thank you guys. Not so worried about the cost of running it, just considering if, say, I buy 10 or 20 of them, I think this is Holo ports, if I could make some kind of calculation, but I guess you will update us on that later. Yeah, that was a follow-up question about what's the return on investment going to be, and obviously, like we said before, we're not going to be able to comment on that because we just don't know. But we hope it's going to be very profitable. That's the ambition. Can Holo be run as a virtual machine, or is it solely on Holo ports? Say I have some massive servers that I would like to donate to the network. Leon, though we'd appreciate the donation, you don't have to donate them. You could run them and earn crypto. Yes, Holo will be able to be run as a VM on other devices, on a laptop, on a desktop, on a server. Are there massive advantages to running Holo on a server? Probably not, just because the architecture doesn't favor that. There are not significant disadvantages either, but it's not like other people are going to get pushed out of the ecosystem by folks running servers overnight. That said, early on at the launch, we're probably only going to support Holo ports initially. Those would be the first people getting to participate as we're figuring things out and testing, et cetera. And then we're going to likely open up support for people who are running their other devices on Linux, because Linux is what we're using. That's the operating system that we're using on the Holo ports. And then we'll begin supporting other operating systems subsequent to that. Marcelo asks, hey guys, could you describe a non-tech Holochain/Holo roadmap. What's your vision for the next 18 months? Something big picture. When do you expect 10 dApps working on Holochain and being served by Holo to the web? Our hope is to have 50 applications running on Holochain and being ready for Holo to bridge to the web by the launch of the network. So that's our hope is, this spring, probably late spring at this point, we'll be launching Holo, shipping the Holo ports, and again, Holochain applications don't require Holo. So we're already seeing people building and running Holochain applications. It's early days still, but we had a great hackathon last weekend focusing on building a value accounting application for an organic food company. And we'll see a lot more stuff like that over the coming weeks and months. That's part of why we're not spending so much time doing the traditional marketing to speculators things, because we're spending almost all of our time trying to pull people into the ecosystem as builders, as developers, and people who are wanting to support developers. Comments or thoughts there, Will?
I guess I'll just reiterate, just for anyone that doesn't know, VM stands for virtual machine. So that means you'd be able to run the Holo software on your computer at the same time as, for example, you're running your word processor or your browser, and it would run in the background. And again, that will be released maybe after we kind of initiate the network with some Holo ports and get everything settled out, but that will be free software. But
yeah, free open source software. Although our license will be, we're going to hold the license a little tight for the first few months. We're not exactly sure what that window is, but we want to make sure that we get the patterns figured out and mature before people start taking them and repurposing them for other stuff. We would hate to see a bunch of poorly designed currencies flood the market before we're able to demonstrate healthy patterns. And again, for those who aren't familiar, our co-founders, one of whom is Will's dad, actually, Eric. Our co-founders, Eric Harris-Braun and Arthur Brock, are currency design geeks. And they, not just cryptocurrency design geeks, they're currency geeks. They actually met at an alternative currencies conference in 2004. So they've been at this for a long time. And Arthur has worked as a professional currency designer for a wide variety of companies and communities. To kind of touch a little bit more on the roadmap, we have an outline of that in our green paper of what we think the next year looks like. But the basic gist is we're going to launch in the spring, ideally, fingers crossed, right? But we're going to launch in the spring with some Holo ports shipping, initial early test versions of Holo, hopefully 50 or so applications running on Holochain. We're going to start playing with patterns. Other people in our community are going to start playing with patterns for how to have all that stuff play together. And over the summer and fall, we're going to be maturing that more and more. That'll be hopefully growing. And I can't remember exact dates on this, but I think we're hoping to have really solid, like, hey, this is pretty commercial grade stuff by late 2018, early 2019. Does that sound right to you, Will?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The only other thing I'll say is that for those of you who have been following Scepter, Scepter is the project that Holochain and Holo are sort of coming out of. There's some things that we had worked on for the last several years around interoperable protocols, really sort of exciting, interesting stuff about making it easier to bridge between applications or bridge between Holochains, for instance. And Eric, Will's dad, is really excited to get back to working on that stuff. That's probably not going to be until the end of 2018, more likely the beginning of 2019, but that's probably the next step. We'll be working on the bridging stuff.
I will say, if you haven't been following Scepter, you're welcome to go check it out. But again, it's very big picture stuff, and it's not like a necessity to understand kind of Holo to to also understand Scepter. So if you're
Hey,
interested, check.
Jen, it sounds like somehow the signal dropped. We're down to 2 people. Oh, Robert said his software gave an error. So maybe we'll restart this. Robert, if you want, go ahead and restart it. And we'll take another swipe. And if you need us to jump, Robert, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. I've been recording with Zoom anyways, so hopefully we can just keep going as all one recording.
Okay.
I'll see, but I'll have to try.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we've only got a couple minutes left, so we'll wrap up and not do a new recording. If you're able to get it back up to Facebook, that's great. And for those of you who couldn't see him, this is Robert Best. Robert is one of the other amazing humans on the team. So let's see.
Could we quickly go jump down a little bit to a work profits question? If
Sure.
I have been verified, I'll read it. If I have been verified and I have my Ether address sent, will I be able to send in my Ether on the 23rd and get my Holo fuel? I will be offline starting the 26th for 2 weeks, and I want to make sure I still get to participate before I leave. And can I purchase more than I have been reserved for my Holoport purchase? So this is a question about reserved Holo tokens. And this is when you participate in the ICO, you get a message saying you have a certain number of Holo tokens reserved for you. And this means that you still have to purchase them if you want to, but nobody else can purchase them for the first day that they're reserved. And the number that you get is correlated to which perk you backed on the Indiegogo campaign. And what Work Profit is asking, I believe, is the Holo tokens that are reserved start being reserved on the 26th of January, which is 3 days after the rest of the ICO starts. This is to allow time for people who backed on Indiegogo to whitelist and register and have time to do that before they claim their tokens. But the question is, can I purchase Holo tokens before my claimed tokens are available? And the answer is yes. As long as there's supply that's remaining, you'll be able to purchase Holo tokens before, right when the ICO starts on the 23rd. And the other part of this question was, can I purchase more Holo tokens than have been reserved for me? And the answer is also yes. The only cap on how many Holo tokens you're able to purchase is that no one wallet, so no one person, is able to purchase more than 10% of any given day's supply of Holo tokens. So you'll be able to purchase more than have been reserved for you as long as it's under 10% of that day's supply.
Yeah, and our reason for that is that we want to make sure that we don't have one giant Bitcoin whale just buy up everything, because that doesn't feel like it's a healthy ecosystem.
That's right.
The other piece there, and I'll ask you this question, Will, is when, for the people who have participated in the Indiegogo campaign, for this initial launch period, when will they get access to being able to purchase reserve tokens, purchase tokens that have been reserved for them, and then when will those tokens become open to anybody in the public to purchase if they haven't been purchased by that user? You know?
So all reserved tokens will become available on the 26th. That's 3 days after the regular ICO launch. And then 1 day after they become available, so on the 27th, I believe it's at something like 10 a.m. GMT or 10 a.m. UTC. So 1 day after the tokens become available, that's when they'll stop being reserved for whoever they were reserved for and be available for anyone to purchase.
And you just kind of touched on a point there. Is that our official launch time, 10 a.m. UTC on the 23rd? Do you know?
I'm not going to say that for sure. I don't. Yeah, I don't know that.
I know we moved to the 23rd, but I didn't know if it was at noon or 10 or what the actual. We'll have that.
I believe that the new supply is released each day after the ICO starts at 10 UTC, 10 a.m. UTC.
Okay.
Again, check me on this. Go look somewhere else. Also subject to change possibly, but
yeah,
I think that's the current estimate.
Great. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? It's
We're back
apparently,
online, by the way.
yes, we're back in action. Thank you so much, Robert, for your magic making there. What else? I assume the Holo ports are optimized to support the network, according to Symmetry Mattress. Yes, that's absolutely correct. We have designed these Holo ports specifically to be well built to do this kind of work, right? So they come pre-configured. The idea is that they're plug and play. You're able to take the thing, plug it in, hook it up to the internet, toggle a couple of settings, and away you go. You're hosting, and you can get more detailed if you want, but you can keep it pretty simple and be earning cryptocurrency for hosting other people's, really other people getting their first taste of interacting with distributed applications. Often, we're trying to. The whole point of Holo is to make it easy for ordinary folks to start interacting with these new peer-to-peer applications without necessarily having to become a peer themselves. Not that ends up being really hard, but even things that aren't that hard, if they're new, can prevent people from participating. So we're just trying to remove the barriers. We're basically out of time. We'll see if we can answer one or two more questions. Do you have anything in here in particular that speaks to you, Will, that you've seen?
Yeah, the second part of that question also from Symmetry Mattress. Secondly, will the parts of the Holo ports be salvageable if this project dies for some unfortunate reason? This is kind of a funny question, but the answer is yes. The Holo ports will be pretty much basically Linux computers, and especially if you're kind of tech minded and know how to set up a computer and that sort of thing, they should be relatively easy to set up as a normal Linux computer.
You can think of them as like a Mac Mini, kind of, right? Like they're
comparable specs to a Mac Mini. Yeah.
Yeah. Little box. You plug in some peripherals to it, and ta-da, there you go. On that front, we haven't really talked about the Holo ports much this call, but Holoport, does it have Wi-Fi?
It does not, to my knowledge.
Why not?
And this is on purpose. We're not trying to be cheap about this. This is for security reasons. So the idea is that your Holoport will pretty much sit in your house in the same spot most of the time, just doing what it does. And you'll be able to connect to it from anywhere on your network to like configure it and stuff like that. So we thought we should remove Wi-Fi. We shouldn't add Wi-Fi to those devices because since they'll be in the same place, you can plug them in through Ethernet. You'll get a faster, more reliable connection that way. And it's just a security risk to have Wi-Fi the connection going over the air in that way that could be like tampered with in some way. If you have it plugged in, which if you have it plugged in, it's more secure that way.
Yeah, it's more secure and it's faster, right? Like better service all around, better experience for everybody using the network, plus security gains. And we went, well, shoot, that makes it pretty simple.
Definitely.
Someone, EV3 asked, if I have been verified and I have my Ether address sent, will I be able to send in my Ether on the 23rd and get my Holo fuel? Yes, assuming that it hasn't already sold out, right? Like assuming that you submit and Ethereum being what it is, transactions can get slow and things, but that's the goal.
I think this is the same question I answered before. It may have been while we were down a little bit. So
okay.
This will get posted. This is also kind of answering another person's, Paul Tompkins' question. These will get posted to YouTube on our YouTube account, Holo. I think if you search Holo Host on YouTube, yeah. It's called Holo, but if you search Holo Host, you'll get to it. So this will be posted on YouTube, and you can go and look for my answer in the couple minutes when we were down. Gives a little more detail on that question.
Yeah. And sorry for the technical malfunction. We were chatting away happy as a clam, and one of the people on our team said, "Hey, you guys went down." So for those who were following the Facebook Live, apologies on that. It doesn't look like there's much left that's new to cover that at least has made it in front of me. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there. So a few things, just reminders for those who weren't watching the beginning of the video. we have shifted our ICO, our initial community offering, to January 23rd. That's when we're going to be launching. You're going to be able to whitelist, meaning add yourself to the list so that you can actually purchase as part of that ICO anytime between now and the end of the ICO. So at any point, you can go and jump through those hoops. Go to holo.host/ICO for more details. Also,
go to verify.holo.host to start the verification process.
Yep. And if you have any questions, jump onto chat.holochain.net. Ask us there. There's a questions. Is it called ICO? What is the actual name of that channel?
I believe
there's an ICO.
I believe it's called question mark emoji holo/ICO Q&A.
I love how you actually say out, like speak out question mark emoji.
It's actually kind of cool because of a lot of our channels have emojis at the start of them, so they all sort in the right order. So all of, like, the Q&A channels are right next to each other with that red question mark. But,
our community makes like heavy use of emojis. It's kind of a funny cultural thing. A couple other things just to mention: meetups. We are organizing meetups around the globe, and in fact, I'm about to go on a tour of Europe. I'm going to be speaking at an event in Switzerland, attending a couple of other events there. But I'm going to probably spend the next month and a half romping around Europe, jumping on trains, occasionally jumping on planes. If you are interested in hosting a meetup in your city and you happen to be in Europe, ping me on Mattermost. Go to our public Mattermost channel. We've got a channel on hackathons, but you could say it in the announcements. You can ping me directly. I'm at Matthew Joseph, MatthewJoseph. I want to host meetups in your town, whether that's a hackathon type thing or just a discussion. I'm going to be basically playing Pied Piper for the next month and a half, and I want to help other people gain a deeper understanding of all this. So please jump onto chat.holochain.net. Ping me. Would love to get to know you, the other people in your community, and would love to help them get to know Holochain and Holo. With that, we'll go ahead and sign off for the week. Will, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, it was really good having you on this, man.
It's fun to be here.
We'll have to have you back again. Maybe you and your...
That'd be fun.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great week.
Thank you, everybody.